Hey there everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be continuing on from my previous videos and I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favourite 7th Doctor stories. Now Sylvester McCoy is an interesting Doctor. He started out rough, but he got better and better with each season in my opinion. Speaking of which, this is all my own opinion, so if you agree, if you disagree, ultimately, that's okay. And unfortunately the show was cancelled after Sylvester McCoy's 3rd season, meaning that he's on the unfortunate situation of only having 12 televised stories, which is why I'm not going to be doing any honourable mentions this time round. The other thing I want to say is the next Doctor I will be talking about is the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. However, after that, I want you guys to let me know. Do you want to hear me talk about the 2nd Doctor, Patrick Troughton, or the 3rd Doctor, Jon Pertwee? Let me know down in the comments, and whilst you're down there, also be sure to subscribe. Now, onto the video. First up, we've got the Happiness Patrol, and yeah, this is a weird choice, but I actually really like this story. It's a gothic, kooky, bittersweet sort of neo-noir story, but with a twist. Now, it's based on a really childish concept. Essentially, we're in a world where you're not allowed to be sad, but what they do with that is turn it into a dystopian sci-fi future, which is something that I actually think is really well handled. Sometimes I think that the contrast between lightheartedness and dark themes isn't handled very well, but a lot of the time it also does. It, in my opinion, has my single favourite 7th Doctor moment out there in this.
No. In fact, let him come a little closer.
So you are.
Why? Scared? Why should you be scared? You're the one with the gun.
That's right.
And you like guns, don't you?
He'll kill you.
Of course he will. That's what guns are for. Pull a trigger, end a life. Simple, isn't it?
Yes.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
A life killing life.
Who are you?
Shut up. Why don't you do it then? Look me in the eye. Pull the trigger. End my life.
No,
Why not?
I can't.
Why not?
I don't know.
You don't, do you? Throw away your gun.
As well as that, I think the characters are very well handled in this story, and the themes are used in a pretty satisfying way. The Candyman does suck though. There's no way of getting around that. The villains, I think, sort of work. For the type of story it is, they do. However, take them out of this and they really don't. I think the pacing is really good, and overall it holds together so much better than it should. And it's thanks to some really damn clever writing. Next up, we have the final ever classic Doctor Who story, and I actually think it's quite a good transition to New Who. For one, it's a lot shorter, it's only 3 parts, and in addition to that it takes this suburban setting, which is a really nice change of pace. Ace is given a lot of good development in this, and there are a lot of personal stakes going on here. I also think that the Master was a really good addition and adds for a really great presence. I think this is one of the best classic Who stories featuring the Master, in particular Anthony Ainley's Master, who, as always, is great. It's got some great direction, it's got some great pacing, the speech at the end is great, although admittedly it's a bit goofy. The main problem I have with this story is the stuff about the cheetah people is pretty dumb, although I think that the makeup that they actually use for the cheetah people is really good, and the way it has these sort of horror elements interwoven in it I think is really good. So overall it's actually a pretty creative story with a lot of tension in it. Even furries like it. Ghostlight is my kind of story, because it's a haunted house story, but in Doctor Who. And because of this, there's some very good direction and a lot of suspenseful sequences going on here. The acting's great, and I really like what they do with Ace in this story. It's intriguing, its plot is very interesting, and it's very well paced. The tone changes weirdly at some points, however, I think that overall the tone is pretty consistent. The dialogue is really good, it's engaging, and it's just a breath of fresh air to Doctor Who. I love the way it plays around with its characters and how they act in this situation. By far it's a highlight of this story. adds some really good production design and great editing, and overall this is just great. I love the concepts in it, I love what it does with its characters, and it's got this very authentic feel that comes from how well made it is. It's a really nice change of pace, and I think it's a very underrated episode from the McCoy run. The penultimate story I want to talk about is one of my favourite Dalek stories ever, Remembrance of the Daleks. And the main reason this is number 2 on this list is because it is the episode that changed the 7th Doctor for me and for a lot of people. What they do with his character is they turn him from some sort of goofy, light-hearted character to a calculating mastermind who uses all of this goofy pretense as just a hoax, essentially. A mask for this greater mastermind beneath. It adds so much more depth to McCoy's Doctor, and he gives a really great performance in this story. In addition to that, I think the themes and concepts are really unique and interesting. I really like what they do with Davros and the Dalek Civil War in this one. The production design is amazing, and the directing's really good as well. The pacing's great, and there's a lot of really good tension in here. The Dalek and Davros moments and the Doctor and Davros moments are really good as well. Ace is given a decent amount to do, and her dynamic with McCoy was really good here. And ultimately, I think the main reason I love this episode so much is because it was a massive change from what we saw in season 24. It was darker. It gave McCoy so much more depth. It's got some brilliant dialogue, and the whole plot just rivets with energy and tension. Its contributions to the mythology are still felt to this day in New Who stories and Big Finish audios. Therefore, I just think that this has to be considered as one of the best 7th Doctor stories out there. But not only that, but one of the best stories of the 80s and featuring the Daleks out there. Because ultimately, it pretty much made this incarnation of the Doctor. It turned him from a goofball into this calculating and powerful presence. And finally, my favourite 7th Doctor story is The Curse of Fenric, a mythological story that feels like a character study. It explores the morality of the Doctor and how he thinks and acts, his relationship to Ace and how he strategizes and the effects it has on the people around him. The story is some really good character development on some of the revelations that were made in Remembrance of the Daleks and other stories going forward. And it has some really interesting and engaging dialogue inside of it. I really like the horror elements here, and they're fairly unique. The production design is fantastic, and the directing is pretty good as well. I really like the mythology it shows, and it explores this mythology very well with its villains. I think that this is a really solid looking episode, a very exciting episode, but most of all, a fascinating one. The crutch of the episode are the revelations made by the Doctor and by Ace towards what is going on here, in particular to Ace. Because of this, there is so much drama that goes on between these two characters, and it makes this story really engaging to watch. It's a really intriguing story with all of its mystery elements, and it just hits every beat it should. There is not a single thing I can look at and say is wrong with this story, because in my opinion it did everything it had to and above. It's fantastically made, it's fantastically written, it's just a brilliant Doctor Who story, and it's able to transcend Doctor Who by exploring the Doctor and the companion in such an in-depth way. So overall, it added this really interesting mythos to the whole story. It explored one of my favourite Doctor-companion relationships out there, and it's just really, really well made. Hence, because of that, I think it's gotta be the best 7th Doctor story. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And down below, please tell me in the comments whether you would like to see me talk about the 2nd or 3rd Doctor next, and in addition to that, in general, just tell me any video ideas you want to see. In the future, I am of course going to be talking about the worst 7th Doctor stories, however that'll be a little bit difficult given how few televised stories Sylvester McCoy had, So I guess we'll see how we're going to do that one. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.